Seder. Diyoi kedei lichtov. Says the Heilige Gemara, this Shir, Amud Yomi Shir of the Dirshu cycle. We're following Dirshu, and here is the Shir today. Today we're going to learn about hotza'a, details of hotza'a. What happens when hotza'a is not done in one go? I would give the title to the Shir. When hotza'a is not done in one go, yochid to harabim, you do hotza'a in installments to different places, different times. See what happens then. First of all, we're going to learn also very, very fascinating facts about the definition of hanacha, of locating something in reshus harabim or yochid. How is that defined? We're going to see a whole new definition. Tana, let's see what the Gemara says about the shtei oisios. We saw that the amount of yoy, the Mishnah told us, the amount of ink that one is chayav, if you took it out from reshus yochid to reshus harabim and vice versa, the shtei oisios, that's the amount. Yeah, the amount for the two, I assume, smallest oisios, maybe yud, something like that. If the shtei oisios, that's the amount of dioi, of ink you took from one reshus to the other, you're fried. That's it. You're chayav if you took dioi that's enough to write two oisios with. So it says shtei oisios b'dioi, shtei oisios b'kulmus, shtei oisios b'kalmorin. What does that mean? We're going to see now machlokes Rashi and Rambam. Says Rashi, Rashi says dioi yovesh. Dioi, when it's dry, it's a powder. Before it was mixed with the liquids, then the amount is shtei oisios. Yeah, amount is shtei oisios. Yeah. Okay, 1 second. 1 minute. No, let me explain again. The only malacha we're learning now, the same mistake people made yesterday, we're not learning about writing or about erasing, about anything. We're learning in the past few days and the next few days about one thing, and that is taking out. What is the amount, what's the shear, the amount you chayav for taking out different items? How much ink am I chayav, if I took ink out of reshus yochid to reshus harabim or vice versa? And the answer is, if there is enough ink in the box or wherever I take it in my hand to write 2 letters, that's the amount of ink I'm chayav on. That's all. Now, what does it mean b'dioi? Let's say I have ink that's not yet ready to use, but the amount is 2. I could, once mixed, I can write 2 letters with it. I'm chayav. And the same thing shtei oisios b'kulmus. Let's say I have a kulmus. I have a quill. Yeah, the pen of the writers. Yeah, that feather, the quill of the soifrim, of the scribes, and the dioi is inside. If the dioi is inside, I'm chayav. If the amount of his dioi is 2 letters, exactly the same. The shtei oisios b'kalmarin. When your kid goes to school, he has a kalmar. Kalmar is a case. It's a case of the dioi. That's a case with the dioi is inside. Yeah, it's called keses. They dip the kulmus into the keses and they write. That's like the case, the little box where the dioi is inside. So according to Rashi, it doesn't make a difference whether it's liquidy or in every shape or form. It's always the same amount, shtei oisios. The Rambam, I saw the Rambam today. The Rambam and others, they say no. Why? Because Lamaise, in the case, you have to have a little bit more. Because if you want to write 2 letters, and you need more than 2 letters in the kulmus, because a little bit stays in the kulmus, in the kalmar. In the kalmar, in the case, you take from the kalmar, which is your pool of data, which is where you're taking it from, and from there you take in order to write in the kulmus. So if in the kulmus, let's say we're talking about 2 milliliters, in the kalmar you have to have 2.5 milliliters, because some of it stays behind, right? Let's say you have a jug of honey. So not all the honey will come out. Think that way. That's what the Rambam holds. But according to Rashi, it's all the same shear. Rashi, from some reason, doesn't care about that. Yeah, insignificant or something. That's what Rashi holds. And it says it's the same amount whether it's dry, liquidy, in the kulmus, which is the pen, or in the kalma, which is the case. It's always the same amount, shtei oisios. That's the amount you chayav on. Boy Rove. Now Rove is asking a question. Pen with all of second line. Ois achas b'dioi, ois achas b'kulmus, ois achas b'kalmorin mau. What would be the halacha if let's say you took out 1 letter in a raw state of dioi and another letter in the quill? Then what's going to be the halacha? Teku. We don't know. Why don't we know? Why not? Says Tosfos, look at the first Tosfos. Let's say I took one kulmus with enough dior for one letter, and another kulmus with enough dior for another letter. So what would we say then? You're chayav, because it's the same kind of dior. It's the same viscosity, same amount, same everything. The Schenken, one in the kalmar, one in the kulmus, they're not exactly in the same state, in the same stage. So there maybe it's a shaila. Do they join to be one hotza'a? Especially according to the Rambam, it's even better the question, because it's not even the same amount. So do we say that they join together, although they're not exactly in the same state, in the same stage of writing? Are they together, or are they considered to be mitzvah together or not? That's a teiku. Fact Rashi asks the question, excuse me, who cares? You're any achai for taking the kulmus. The kulmus is a big thing. It's a whole leather. It's all feather. And says Rashi, based on something we learned in the Isha, and we will see again in Mishnah Daf Tzadi Gimel, yeah, that is, what did we say about the perfume? Remember, if I have a bottle of perfume and I have inside perfume less than sheer, and I'm not chayiv in the bottle. I'm not chayiv if the whole purpose is I'm taking a case, a bag. Let's say I take a bag with a dead ant inside, dead cockroach. Ugh. Nobody takes out dead cockroaches unless you're metzniah them. Otherwise, no. So the bag, the fancy bag, if all I want is the bag in order to carry the cockroach, on the bag I'm also potter. So unfortunately, Mishnah Tzadi Gimel. Absolutely, Mishnah Tzadi Gimel, and we had all discussion with Meisha. And therefore, here too, that's not an issue. So if you take one kulmus with one letter and a keses, a case, a kalmar, you don't know the word kalmar from school?
He doesn't know how big it is?
No. If I want to take out the bag because I want to show how fancy I am, I take a bag from a fancy shop. No, but if the only reason I take the big fancy bag is in order to take the cockroach out, which is any on the then a potter also on the bag. Yeah. Yes. And that's why over here I'm potter on that. Elamai, the shaila is about the dior itself, the dior in the kalmar, the dior in the kulmus. Do they join or they don't join? How close, how far are they? That's a shaila. That's a teiku. Omarove. This is now unbelievable stuff about hanacha. Let's have a little bit of refresher about what we've seen many moons ago at the beginning of the Masechta. What did we see? We saw about akira and hanacha. Every hotza'a has to have two ingredients, really three. Hotza'a akira, you take it off the place of rest. I take the phone, forget about back, it's mukta. Yeah, I take the phone from the table, kitchen table, and I transfer without stopping, boom, 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 and then there's hanacha, boom. I put it down, right, on the surface, daled, right, daled tfochim, v'chulei, right? We have to have a place of hanacha and reshus harabim, or vice versa. So hanacha means when it's stable, stationary, then it's called hanacha. Before that, I'm not chayav. It's also the rabbanon to do half a job. But l'maisa, I'm chayav on hanacha. Why did they say three? Because there's also havora. I have to transfer, to move it from one place to the other. That's beside. The main thing is akira and hanacha. That was always the job. And by the way, we're going to see the whole thing again in Perek Yud Aleph. All these details will appear then too. Comes Rava with a tremendous chiddush. He took out, let's say, ink in the quill to make it easy in the feather. The kosvan kshehu mehalech. As he's walking, he's writing. He's walking and writing. Writing means what? Transferring from the quill onto the paper, onto the parchment. Chayav. Even though he didn't stop. There's no stopping. He's walking and walking. He's walking and writing. Yeah, very talented guy. He's chayav on hanacha. But what's resting? The dioi and the paper, everything is still moving along. Why is he chayav on hanacha? Says the Gemara, ksivasan zuya nechason. Wow. Which means, what's the final destination of the dioi? The paper, the parchment. That's called hanacha. Even though the paper itself is moving around, but if you focus, our camera focuses on the paper or the cloth, and this is where this ink is going to be forever and ever, that's the hanacha for the ink. It's all relative. And therefore, I don't care that the paper is moving and I am the cipher. I'm also moving, but vis-a-vis the relationship between the dioi that was on the kitchen table, then I took it out, and I started writing. Now it's munach, it's resting and mamish, embedded, written on the parchment. For it, that's the hanacha. Hashem helped me and my memory, Baruch Hashem. There is a Gemara in Daf about, remember, the ego is al gav mayim. If you have a knot over water, it's not called hanocha because water is not stable. So what's the difference? Tosfos says enechanami, but ink also, yeah, you have to have stable surface. He says if in ink, says Tosfos at the end there, he says if by the ink as I'm walking, I move the ink from one bottle to the other, I'm not chayav, because it's not the final destination. And there you need hanacha stable. But because the paper is a very final destination, unless you erase it, if you don't erase it vigorously, it's going to stay there forever and ever. The hanacha is so strong, so eternal, that it overrides the fact that the paper itself is moving around. Because between the ink and the paper, the relationship is going to stay there forever and ever. Catholic marriage. It's going to be there forever. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Sorry. Get me? Unbelievable. I mean, yeah. What? It does move. Comparison of a boat. Right, I hear. If let's say moved from a house to a boat, we say chayav. Right. Then we're going to discuss that in the list. Right, because relative to the whole, right. That's egos al gav sfina. That's very good. Right. Okay, good. Very good. Very nice. V'omer Rove. Now comes Rove with another chiddush. Hoitzi ois achas v'kosvo. Yeah, let's say you took out one letter, meaning you took out a bit of dioy of ink, and you wrote it on the paper. And again, you took out one letter, meaning ink, enough for one letter, and you wrote it on the paper. Potu, why? Why a potu? I thought that's hanacha. My time, beidna de apkale besraisa, choser lelishur de kamaisa. Wow. When you took out the second one, the first one is already gone. What do you mean it's gone? It's already absorbed in the paper. Hanacha means when the ink is still wet on the paper, it's munach on the paper. But after a few seconds, you use they use a blow dryer today, or you dry it right away. It's already mamish sunk in, and part of the paper it disappeared. And when the second one came in, the first one already disappeared, and that's why you're not chayiv. And that's going to be the nuchi. The share of a lot of lomdus in the next piece. Yeah, get what I'm saying? When you took out the first one, there was hanacha, then there was post hanacha. It's so much part of the paper itself that's ready, it's gone. It's not munach separately, it's swallowed in the ground, swallowed inside. When the second one came in, the first one is not there. And therefore, they don't mitzaref to make you chayav on one big hanacha. And that's going to be also the topic of the next thing, and that's the main chiddush of one of the main chiddush of today's daf. Listen to this. How much are you chayav for taking out food? What's the shir? Remind me, everybody. Grogeres. You took out half a grogeres from the house to the street. Then you placed it nicely on the street, on the bench, on the street, whatever. The you went back home, took out another half of grogeres of food. And you took it out. Rishoina, the first one. The first half of grogeres is looked at as if the dog ate it, the dog absorbed it and ate it, or as if it was burnt and potur. What does it mean? We're going to see a Gemara later on in the 11th parak, there's a lot of stuff over there, that if I throw something, I do a kira, and a dog came and ate it, I'm potur, because I didn't do the hanacha, the dog did it. And also, if I threw it into a fire, a kira and a hanacha into fire, I'm potur. It was consumed right away. Consumed. There was no hanacha. It's not munach in the fire. It's consumed right away. It didn't stay there and then consumed. It's a paper, something very, very flammable. Boom. There was no hanacha. They're just burning. Same thing over here. Interesting. Yeah. In other, what happened here again? The first half of grogeres, once it's on the floor, it's considered as if it's out, gone. When I take the second one, I'm already potter. But why? Why is that? Mancha. It's there. The first half of grogeres is there. The second one joined it. Mazel ra. Now you have two half of grogeres. Why not? Achikoma. Answers the Gemara. There's a big ukimta here. V'im kodem v'higbia rishoino koidem anochas shnia nasas rishonik mishiniklo toshnisofo potu. Which means, let's say Mr. Sinner b'shoigig hopefully, before the second one was landed, before he was maniach the second grogeres, he picked up the first one and started moving around with it. There was hanacha before the second one joined the party to the hanacha place in the reshus harabim. The first half of grogeres he took and he started walking with it. He wasn't maniach it. The first one, no, even the person, first, even he himself Good, that's a chiddush. Even he did it himself, then it's considered as if it was eaten by the dog who consumed, because it's not munach. Although it's in the world, but it is running around out there. It's not munach. As long as both pieces are not munach together at the same time as the final result, you are patur. So let me add a little bit of this over here in honor of the Shlosh Shavuos. Let's now say something a little bit deeper. Every malach of Shabbos has two things. Every malach in the world, but every real talking about malach Shabbos, there's a maisa and a toitzo. That's a lot of lomdus where I was in hotza'a. It's the lomdus is there in the Mishnah. Every malacha has the act, and there is a result. Right? If you look at the act, of course, the person should be chayav. There was one helem. Within one helem, he did all the naughty things. He took out yochid, harabim, half a grogeres, and within the same helem, the same forgetting, he took out from yochid to harabim another half. Who cares that they're not together? Look at my maisa, I did everything wrong. That's a chiddush of the Rava. Rava comes and tells you, no, by hanacha, you have to have the result together. The Torah doesn't allow you not to do the bad thing. The Torah does not allow you to achieve the bad result. I should not have at the final stage, when I get to the finishing line, I should not have a matziv of the entire grogeres moved from yochid to harabim or vice versa. That's a chiddush. Yeah, which is interesting. Why? Because let's say it was consumed by fire, and then the second one, there's no hanacha on the whole thing. And the same thing with the letters. Since the first one is post hanacha, when the second one came, the first one is already gone. You don't have a hanacha on all of them together. Because the toitza is missing, you're not chayav on hanacha. And we're going to see more on that later about location. In other words, I don't know if it's a special thing about hanacha or about hoitza, also about other malachos, but for now, let's discuss hanacha. You need the toitza to be achieved. Because if you look at the mice of the person, he did everything wrong. Unknowingly, between 9 and 9:30 in the morning, let's say, it was one helem period, I did half a grogeres and another half a grogeres. Who cares what happened? Kamash Malan, you need a noch on all of them as a result. That's, I think, the lom this year. Yeah.
The commentaries go into a greater explanation. Is let's say somebody actually moved the one half of grogeres. How close would they have to be considered then a kol?
Oh, no commentaries. We're going to see it in the Gemara later on. Okay. They have to be in the same Ushasat. That will be the next, not very next, but
okay.
Very good. Good question. To be continued. Here comes the bigger chiddush. A person took out half a grogeres from the yochid to harabim. He placed it nicely on the floor. Where do you have to locate it? On the floor, or if it's not on the floor, if it's 3 tefachim above, it has to be in the place of dalid al dalid. Yeah, dalid tefachim, dalid tefachim. The chazar v'hoitzi chatzi grogeres, and then he took out another half a grogeres. Listen to this. V'he'evira derech oleho chayav. And he did not locate it. He did not place it. He just passed it. He just moved it on, passed it on top of the first half, right? Then he's chayav. He's chayav. There was no hanacha in the second one. And you chayav without having hanacha. Unbelievable. What are you talking about? The second one is flying around. Why are you chayav? Answers the Gemara. Kigon shavira toch shloisha. Oh, which means we're talking here that the person, the second half of grogeres, he moved it, he passed it within 3 tefachim to the ground. And here the chiddush is not 3 tefachim to the ground, it's within 3 tefachim, which we know is like lavud. 3 tefachim is kilo on the ground. Or in this case, all the Rishon Ritva, the Tosfos is saying 3 tefachim within the airspace of the lower one. Let's say that my fist is a half a grogeres, 3 tefachim above that, if you passed it over here, it's mitzaref, and the havara, it's killed within 3 tefachim to the ground. And on that you're chayav, which means, according to what we think right now, when do you need hanacha? Hanacha is only required when the space, the item you put it on, the platform you put it on, is more than 3 tefachim to the ground. If it's within 3 tefachim to the ground, because the ground, is the ultimate mokum hanacha, then it doesn't have to be stationary. Even if it's moving around within 3 tefachim to the ground, you also chayav. Big chiddush. Frek the Gemara that this is wrong. Says the Gemara that's not true. The Omar Rove Torch Shlosh Shel Rabbanon. The Gemara is not challenging that. The Omar Rove Torch Shlosh Shel Rabbanon Sorich Hanocha Al Gabi Mashu, which means it's what's according to Rabbanon. We need a small introduction. We saw it in Daf Hey. We will see it in Daf Tzadi Zayin there. There's a concept of Kluta Kamisha Huncha. Rabbi Kiva believes that if you threw an item from reshus echad to reshus harabim, or vice versa, and it's still flying in the air, if it's about to land, right, it's kilo already landed. So even though it's flying in the air, it doesn't have to be stationary, it doesn't have to be stationed. It's kilo, there's already hanacha. That's klut k'misha. That's Rabbi Akiva. Thank you. Not Rabbanon. Rabbanon say no. We need proper, good, stationary, stable hanacha. And according to Rabbanon, yeah, within 3 tfachim to the ground, it's true that you don't need a place of daled al daled, as I kept telling you. 3 tfachim to the ground, it's kilo on the ground. Which means, let's say I have a platform in reshus harabim, which is more than 3 tfachim high. The surface of it has to be more than daled at least. Otherwise, it's a mokum ptur. Chazor in first parak. Remember, if it's within 3 tfachim to the ground, I don't care if it's munach on a tiny piece, because it's part of the ground. The ground of the world is huge, the entire earth. But Gemara says, hey, that's a smoke screen. It's true you don't need the place of Dalit, but it still has to be stationary and something. The fact that it's moving, there's no hanacha. We don't believe kluto kimishuncha. We need real hanacha. It has to stay, to stop. And if this item is just moving around, it didn't stop anywhere. How do you call that hanacha? Thank you very much. It's close to the ground. That's good enough not to require Dalit location. The location is big enough, even when it's small, it's botel to the big surface of earth. But mitzad, the motion, you need hanacha. You need to be munach and stationed somewhere. Comes the Gemara with a tremendous chiddush. Lo kasha, it's not difficult. Can be zoyri, can be ma'avir. Wow. Depends. When you throw something from reshus yochid to reshus harabim, you're right. It has to be munach. It has to be properly located. Boom. Come to a halt in reshus harabim. Big, small, leave me alone now. That's the thing. Mashenken, when you ma'avir it in your hand, so if it's within 3 tefachim to the ground and it's on your hand is a mokum hanocha. Combination of being close to the ground and being in your hand, again, the hand is a mokum hanocha of the item. And even though you didn't stop, you let it go with your hand, it's called hanocha. It's a very big chiddush, and I don't know if that's true halacha. I saw the Rambam says it, Shulchan Aruch doesn't say it. I don't know. But it's a big chiddush. Now, the fact that it's in the hand plus close 3 tefachim to the ground, that makes it into hanacha. To say I understand it, I don't. I have to be honest with you. I looked at the Foshim, I learned this sugis many times. If something doesn't work right, I hope to get it better next time. But this is what we say. The hanacha in the hand, I tried, believe me. Hanacha in the hand plus being close to the ground, some compensates for the fact that it's not munach, it's mavir. And then the two join. One is munach, the second one is also munach because you pass it. Somebody should know, Tessus and Daf Chesed with base, and towards the bottom he says that if you play soccer, let's say you roll something. Yeah, if you roll it in the street back and forth, you're not chayav. But if you rolled it and it's a round thing like a ball or a barrel, and you rolled it from reshus echad to reshus harabim, and then it stopped, then you're chayav. Right? Yeah. You rolled something, you megalgel, you kick a ball, you roll out something round like a ball or a barrel, and from reshus echad to reshus harabim, you rolled it, and then it stopped. That's called a kiran anocha. Even though it wasn't in the air, it's called, but it has to stop. Or Daldam Reshus harabim. You started from point X, you roll the ball, yeah, you slowly kick a ball, you play soccer with your kid, another question in Shabbos, and at the end of Daladamis, it stopped, then you're chayav. Says that's the chayav. Yeah. It's opposed to a square thing, you're not. If you have a square, item, it goes back and forth, and it's every time it's less than Daladamis, you're not chayav. Because there's always connection to the ground. It's a whole zilza dekani. It's a sugya. Lo mishaneh. That's just general knowledge. Tana Abanon. Now we're going to answer your question, Rabbi. Tana Abanon. Location. Hoitzi chatzi grogeres. A person took out half a grogeres. The chosar v'hoitzi chatzi grogeres belamechad chayav. True, right? Half a grogeres. Reshus harabim. Another half a grogeres within one helem, within one period of forgetting. You chayav, of course, right? B'shtei lemois potur. What does it mean, b'shtei lemois? I forgot that it's Shabbos or that it's Osir, and he took out half a grogeres. Then I remember it's Shabbos. Again, I forgot it's Shabbos, a very long Shabbos. And he took out another half a grogeres. We all know from Klal Gadol, if things are done in 2 different helemois, they are potter. You potter in them. Now, Rabbi Yossi Omer, here comes the chiddush. Be'elam echad l'shus echad l'rshus echad chayav. L'shtei reshuyos potur. Ay. Which means, let's say there are 2 different reshus hayochids. Make it clear, yeah. You have 2 houses, Baruch Hashem, very happy for you. One house in Dolev, one house in Lachish. Very nice. So now you took out half into from your house on the left to the street in the left, right? And another half you took from Ras and Lachish to reshus harabim of Lachish. Then you're potul. Same yesod as we saw before. And halacha, by the way, is like that, as far as I remember. Because in hanacha, it's not about just action, it's hotza'a. So they all have to be one big happy family, and the two happy grogeres have to be in the same reshus harabim. The question is, how do you define same reshus harabim? But the big picture now is, it has to be the same reshus harabim. But if it took half into one street and half to another street, I'm potter. Why? Because again, we see the same yesod. In Akira and Hanacha, I have more lom this year. Maybe if I have time, I'll tell you even deeper stuff. That when you have two halves, they have to be, the result has to be looked at. There's a hotza'a of one item that's munach in the same place, or at least within its vicinity. Okay? Now, we are in Pei Amud Aleph. Which line, guys? More or less in the middle or Amud? A little bit below the middle. Now. What do you call two reshus harabims? Let me ask you a question. Before we continue. Let's say the Heilige Iriya decided, like in many places, like in Bnei Brak, right? Yeah, the same street, it changes name in the middle of the street. The Kahneman and the other one, I remember. Yeah, it's the same street that changes names in the middle. So, thank you very much. Iriya decided to give different names, but it's the same street. So, how do you halachically define two different reshus harabims? Because I'll be potter if I moved it to the reshus harabim. How is that defined? Let's see. Machlokas ha'mayroim. Omar Rabba, yeah. So we said now, שאם אני מוציא משהו לרשות היחיד לרשות הרבים, הוצאתי חצי גרוגרת לרשות הרבים אחד. חצי גרוגרת לרשות הרבים השנייה, אני פטור. כן? שניהם צריכים להיות באותה רשות הרבים. Tolerable Hebrew? Good. Now, very good. Now, Omar Rabba, והוא שיש חיוב חטס ביניהם. You know how we define and divide halachic reshus harabim? If between the two reshus harabims, there is a place of חיוב חטס, meaning there's reshus hayochid. Very good. Since between Dolev and Lachish there are private domains, so they halachically break the reshus harabim into two. I have one street and another street. Between them, there are reshus hayochids, which means that these reshus harabims are divided halachically by place that's halachically deoraisa different. Rabim, yochid rabim, are glaringly black and white. Then clearly halacha sees that as two reshus harabims, and then I'm potter if I did one here and one there. Aval karmel isloi. Ooh, that's very nogea. Imagine yourself the following. Let's say between Dolev and Lachish there were no houses. Maybe there was just a nice river, nice, field, piece of midbar, Carmelis, no man's land, no reshus harabim, because midoraisa Carmelis is a mokum too. It's not a reshus midoraisa, it's a rabbanon invention Carmelis. Midoraisa and potter. Mimela halacha doesn't recognize that as two separate reshus harabims or one reshus harabim. Get what I'm saying? Reshus harabim, between them there's a valley. If that happens in many places, I'm sure. Oh, maybe the park, and Rama Aleph and Gimel. Let's say between them the park is a Carmelis. I'm not sure it's a Carmelis. Let's say. So they're called one reshus harabim because halachically the stoppage between them is not deraisically significant. It's a drabanan invention, Carmelis. The I'm allowed to do whatever I want there. In Mainly, it's called one reshus harabim and I'll be chayav. Abai argues on Rabba. Abai argues a lot on his Rabbanim. Abai Omar afilu Carmelis, abel pis laloi. Says Abai, if a Carmelis stops between them, it is considered as two places because I'm sorry, I keep the Rabbanon. I'm Orthodox. Yeah, in other words, yeah, because Rabbanon gave chashivus to Carmelis. So Mimela now it's called chashuv. And Mimela Rabim, Carmelis Rabim are two reshus harabims divided by Carmelis. And if I threw half to one reshus harabim, another half to another reshus harabim, I'm a potter, according to Rabbi Yossi. Aval pisla, what's a pisla? Pisla is a log of wood. Let's say it's a big, significant log of wood, and that log of wood, I'm now seeing what I saw in Gittin. It's a sugi in Gittin now connected. Dafa in Zayin. You have a big log of wood which is 10 tefachim even high. It's not a reshus hayochid. It's big. It's big, close to the aladamas, or it's high. It's a big log of wood, and people in their Balabatish minds, they see that as two reshus harabim. In the Kiryah, you have such a place, yeah? You have like a reshus harabim, a street, and it's divided in the middle by a log of wood. Okay? So now, mitzad halacha, the log of wood is not really a stoppage. It's not a reshus. It's not yochid or Carmelis. It's just a big log of wood, which in people's mind is viewed as a different place. The two reshus harabim is divided by that. Says Abai, who cares? It's not halachically anything. It's not a reshus. Therefore, the reshus harabim maintains its unity, its continuity, and its one reshus harabim, and I will be chayav if I threw half here and half there, even according to Rabbi Yossi. Rove Omar no, Rove Omar afilu pisla. Rove says no, even pisla, even if you have a big log of wood in the middle, significant. The Gemara in Gittin says people call it a certain name. It's called a pisla of that. They have a name for it. The choshev thing. Then it does divide the reshus harabim into two. Why? Rove follows his own reasoning. What does Gittin has to do with anything? Everyone should have amazing shalom bayis. I wish this upon all of you. If chas v'shalom, everybody needs to give a get, and the wife doesn't have a reshus of her own, so he lends her out of his the kindness of his heart. He wants to get rid of her, so he lends her mashil maskir. He gives her domain within his land, right? So let's say he allowed her to use why? Because she needs to get the get into her hotza'a. He doesn't give it to her hand for whichever reason. Yeah, he wants to throw it into her hotza'a. She has no hotza'a. He says no problem. My lawyer and I will take care of everything, and I will lend you. It's all together. I'll give you temporarily a piece of land within my land that will be yours for me to throw the get into your place. And then it fell on the pisla. Yeah. So then we say she's not megoreshes. Why? Who cares? Yeah, because in people's minds it's a different place, right? In other words, if he gave her even both sides of the pisla, but the pisla is a place of its own. I gave you one, I didn't give you two. Yeah. In other words, if I gave you my chotzer in the middle of the pisla, it went to the other side. That pisla is called a real division. You can't say, who cares? It's a chotzer. No. In people's minds, in her mind, in his mind, in the lawyer's mind, and that pisla is significant. Says Rava, unbelievable. Come to reshus harabim, even in Shabbos, because in people's mind that's considered two separate reshus harabims. That's an unbelievable chiddush. So we also view it as two separate reshus harabims. So if I have two houses, one house that threw half a grogeres to one side of the street, the other reshus harabim, another half a grogeres to the other side of the street. What do you mean the other side of the street? Yeah, there's a big pisla which people may view as a separation, as a chatzitza, then it's two reshus harabims and you potur. Time and again we see that when it comes to hanacha, the hanacha has to be completely done not the same time, same helem, same reshus harabim, and both halves of grogeres have to survive to be there together. It has to be one clear hotza'a, not just a pula. The hotza'a has to be one. We see that going through the motive, going through the entire sugya. Okay, very good. We're learning big yesodis here. Baruch Hashem. So now we're continuing. We're done with grogeres. Now we are quoting more of the Mishnah. Choil kedili choil ein achas. Choil always in the Mishnah, if you noticed already, has two functions. There's a choil that's for makeup. Choil is always for the eye, like some blue stuff for the eye, makeup like women use. Or choil is also medication. Lik cholasain mentions also in the Kiddushin in many places for the avodim. Lik cholasain is to heal the eye with some ointment, which was also blue or was called choil. What did we say in the Mishnah? If you took out that eye makeup, now we're talking makeup, enough to put makeup on one eye, you're chayav. In other words, people do preserve, and people normally take out enough makeup to put makeup on one eye, not two eyes. Okay, interesting. Frag the Gemara, who's a crazy woman who puts makeup on one eye, not the other? Yeah, maybe today is such a fashion. I don't know. Yeah, people are crazy. Normally, people put makeup on two eyes. People don't do chal on one eye. Omar Ravuna says, Ravuna tznies. She can tznuis koichlus ein achas. The more tzanua women, like the women in Saudi Arabia, they would cover one eye, and they would only expose one eye. They'll cover the mouth and one eye, very tznius, and one eye, but that one eye they would put makeup on. And therefore, because that's apparently normal, as we'll see by some people, that's normal enough to be mechayiv the person if he or she took out makeup from one eye. Frek the Gemara, but we're going to see now that that's wrong. Look what it says. The Tana says, I told you. What choil? Sometimes it's for medication. If it's for medicinal reasons, Baruch Hashem, one eye is sick, one eye is healthy. Mimela, for ayin, for health, sometimes even one eye, right? Many times. The right eye is puffed and red. The doctor gave you eye drops for the right eye, not for the left one. That's normal. But im lekashet, If it's to adorn, to make up as makeup, as beauty, then bebeisinaim, 2 eyes, not 1 eye. Who does 1 eye? And says the Gemara, Tirgam Hillel Breder Bishmol Bar Nachmeni Kitanye Bironiois. There's a difference between the city girls and the village girls. Says Rashi, listen what it means to live in the city. Rashi says Tznuois Beironios Bnois Kforim Ein Tzrichos Tznius Kolkach She'en Schoik V'Kalusroi Shmotzu Sham Ve'am Mu'otin Ve'en Anachasim Pnei V'Kochlas Besenem. People who live in villages as opposed to big cities, there is no Schoik and Kalus Roish. Where do you have all the pubs and all the clubs and all the nonsense? Yeah, well, in the cities, not in the villages, right? Or within the big city, go to the big city, all the nonsense. Tel Aviv, unfortunately, Yerushalayim, that's all the nonsenses, right? Mimela what? So, and the people are more kaldas, pubs, drinks, all the shtuyot. Mimela, the girls, we were talking about Jewish girls, they have to be more tsanua. So the city girls would cover 1 eye in order to be more tsanua, to protect themselves from all the nice shikorim all around. The girls in the villages allow themselves to be less tsanua and uncover their faces, because what's in the village? Some chicken and some goats, and that's it. What's the big excitement exactly? And mimela, but shteinaim, very good. So the city girl, she's koichel 1 eye. And that 1 eye, she's chayav, she took out because it's normal by her. And the village girl, she never does 1 eye. She's crazy. She does the whole face. She does 2 eyes. Mimela, she's chayav in 2 eyes. Devek, okay? Devek, Kedeliten, we always keep round brackets. It's not my invention. That's the way you learn Gemara. Devek, the next piece is Devek. What's Devek? Glue. How much glue? Yeah? On how much glue you chayav if you took out glue on Shabbos? What's the minimum amount you chayav for taking out glue? Kedeliten berosh shaf. So the Mishnah said enough to put on the top of the shaf. And if you don't know what shaf is, well, the Gemara is going to tell you right now. Tana kedeliten berosh shaf sheborosh kone shel tzayodin, which means, basically, shaf means as follows. There's a stick, yeah? On top of the stick, there's like a rod, a pole, yeah? And on top of that, you have like a small piece of wood, right? And on top of that small piece of wood, now, if you're tzayad, in this case, the shaf has to be one of tzayodin. Tzayodin are hunters, and they hunt for birds. Somehow they managed to attract the birds to sit on the shaf, on that T-shaped item, yeah? They walk with it. Maybe they put some nice food there for the birds, I don't know. The bird sits there, ha, 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 ha. You want the bird to stay there. She doesn't want to stay there. She got your trick already. What do? You have to put a lot of glue to physically glue it to the place. There's glue before she came. Yeah, there's a lot of glue. She doesn't see that. There's a lot of devek. The bird comes in and sits, and now she's stuck for life. For that, what's the chiddush? She did a lot of glue. The chiddush is glue is normally used for that. So even though sometimes use glue for smaller amounts, but because this is normally used for tzayodim, the devek, the glue, mimela, it's a big amount, and only in that you have no less than that. Yeah. Rashi says, you have to put a lot of glue there, so the oif, it could be a big bird, yeah, could be a seagull, I don't know, a vulture. So,
why would you want to trap in the first place?
What?
It's not kosher. Why would you want to trap in the first place?
For beauty, I don't know. Okay, so kosher one, you want to trap a dove. I hear. You want to trap a peacock, I don't know. I think it's kosher, I'm not sure. Yeah, the kids are, that's the idea. Okay, that's a zach. You're working for a guy, and he wants it. But, yeah. What? Yes. Oh, so I don't know, maybe different sayodim put different amount of glue. I guess there's a standard. You ask the average hunter, he will tell you, when I go hunting, that's the amount of glue I'm using. So I guess you go by the average, and that's the amount you have, as far as I know, l'choira. Yeah. Weiter. Zefes v'gofris kedelasois. Oh, zefes v'gofris, if you remember, zefes and gofris are... Zefes is tar, and gofris is sulfate, right? Sulfur, that's a gofris, yeah. Basically, how much you chayav? Kedelasos, you make a small hole in the kli, you have a kli, in the kli, you have paspis, you have quicksilver. And as we know, quicksilver, kaspit. Quicksilver, right, can, when it's out, it's a big story. I once broke a thermometer. It was a big disaster, full of, yeah, it's dangerous. Well, it's very dangerous. I know. He didn't come to my mouth, but I was a kid. I was a small child. By mistake, it was. Basically, you don't want the quicksilver to run, but you want the quicksilver, yes, to be administrated, to go out in very, very small amounts. So what do? You you create the hole and you stick around the hole of that quicksilver keli, gofris or zephys. They probably are strong enough, I don't know, not to be affected, somehow to guard the quicksilver inside. I'm not sure technically, but they're the good item, the good materials to put by the mouth of the kli. You want the quicksilver to stay and only a little bit to be spilled out. You cover that by gofris and zephys. That's the usage apparently back then, and that's the shir chayv on Shabbos. Na tana kedelasos nekev koton. What's the size of the hole you want for the kaspis, for the mercury, the quicksilver? A small one. Yeah, there are different sizes: small, big, medium. I don't know. The smallest one you chayv on. Chalsis kedelasos piku. Oh, chalsis is basically broken. What's the name? Chalsis broken pieces of cheres mixed. You have like a cheres powder. Yeah, if you've had the clay, you made it to a powder. Yeah, and you can stick it to different things. You can create pikur. What's a pikur? As I told you yesterday or 2 days ago, the kur is a furnace, and you want the furnace has a hole in it to pump in air, to pump in with a pump a lot of air inside, and the hole where the hole of the kur of the what's his name of the no of the furnace is made out of chasis, is plated, is covered with chasis. Okay. Now Rabbi Yehuda said in the Mishnah, a bigger shear, chasis you use to make a tripod. A tripod, yeah, that's much more. That's a small hole, and that's an entire tripod, right? Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda's shear is much bigger than Chachamim. What's the machlokas? Makes sense. What's considered more normal, more machmir, more mekel? Frag the Gemara, lememar the shul of Rabbi Yehuda nafish. We see over here, Rabbi Yehuda's shear is bigger than Chachamim. They say a small hole, and he says an entire tripod. But that doesn't make sense. A kaimel the shul of the Rabbanon nafish. We see that the shear of Rabbanon is bigger. The Tanan, we saw in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda omer kedilito lemenu midas mina lakoton. Remember about the gemi, the smaller, no, the thread thing. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the smaller shear is to make a minal, a shoe for a small child, which is smaller than shear of Rabbanon. How come Rabbi Yehuda here saying a bigger shear and they're a smaller shear? Rabbi Yehuda should be consistent. Ema, therefore we have to change it to you and change the words. Kedei losud pitput kiraktana. Rabbi Yehuda didn't say that you have to make the tripod. Look at Rashi. Losud latuach bekoim shaboy. When you have a tripod and the tripod is made out of something of cheres, and there are cracks, and you want to stuff the cracks, you want to caulk the cracks, on that you chayav, and that apparently is smaller than the shear of the opening of the furnace. So Rabbi Yehuda is consistent. Rabbi Yehuda is always more machmir, and he requires smaller shiurim, and then that you're already chayav. So when it came to the minol shel koton, it's smaller than Rabbanon shear, and also by the chasis, Rabbi Yehuda shear is smaller. They say to make an entire round hole around where you place of the hole of the furnace, we pump in the thing. Apparently, that's bigger than Rabbi Yehuda's shear. Rabbi Yehuda didn't say to make a whole tripod. No, he said if you have a tripod that begins to crack here, a crack over there, in a hair, and you stuff the cracks, that's much less. On that, you're already chayav. That's a smaller shear. But I want to tell you before, I don't know if what I'm saying is right or shtiyot, but it's one idea. By hotza'a, if you remember, there's a yesod by hotza'a. Why are we so machmir in hotza'a that has to be, everything has to be so one big hotza'a? Because by, maybe it's my own idea, I'm saying it with trembling, but there is a toisos at the beginning of the Masechta, a very, very big yesod, that hotza'a is called the malacha grua. Hotza'a is an inferior malacha, because hotza'a, there's really no hotza'a, excuse the pun. In hotza'a, there's no result. When I cook something, I have raw potato, now it's soft. I have unpainted chair. Now the chair is painted, beautiful. All 38. 39, Melacha number 39, it's exactly the same grogeres in the house or in the street. The location is different, but the grogeres didn't change whatsoever. Right? So maybe that's why we're more machmir, that at least that much of the tzah should be there. It's doing so poorly on Tetzah, on result, that at least the location should be there all in one go. The kol hapachas, that should be, otherwise it's really bad. Maybe that's my own idea. You like? Oh, I have a skama here from the Rabbanim. What else can be better? Thank you to everybody on YouTube and on Torah anytime. The Elga site. We're going to be here tomorrow. It's Hashem. We are now in Me'am Loez in B'Shemesh. Such an amazing place. Everyone should come here to Me'am Loez to learn in the evenings. Thank you. Atzlacha uvracha from all of us over here. Thank you. Yes, your questions?
My question was, I remember learning in the Kenyan halacha Shabbos.